Hi, David. Thanks for joining me. I always look forward to talking with auctioneers and collectors about key lots coming up in their auctions. I've just got back from Berlin and I've spent the past few days going over your catalog. And it seems that I learn more about the history of the numismatic hobby by reading a Kolbe and Fanning auction catalog than I do reading anything else that's published today. So, when I reached out to you, you told me that you wanted to talk about a book called The American Accomptnt, being a plain, practical, and systematic compendium of federal arithmetic in three parts designed for the use of schools and specially calculated for the commercial meridian of the United States of America, which, after reading that title out loud, seems to me about as much of a page turner as anything that you'll likely read today.
Doesn't it? Yeah, it's a great title, great 18th century title. It is. It's one of those books where, you show your average coin collector, or you show your average anyone, a title like that, and they would think it sounded like the dullest book imaginable. But it's actually a very important book for a couple different reasons. And it is especially important to coin collectors and of interest to numismatists. The book has been well known in book collecting circles for quite a long time. It's long been recognized as the first book to have a printed dollar sign in it. A lot of the book is, devoted to teaching people how to do things like general accounting for a business. Stuff that is not particularly, necessarily fascinating to most people. But in this case, they're dealing a lot with the new federal monetary system, so they're talking about dollars and cents. And they're talking to an audience that probably grew up using other types of currency. So it's interesting for that reason, but it's the typographical dollar sign that makes its first appearance in this book. And for that reason, it's been a fairly famous book in book collecting circles for quite some time. It also, however, has a much more direct tie-in for a numismatic audience in that it has what book people call a frontispiece. A frontispiece is a plate, an illustration, usually right before the title page of a book, so that if you have it open to the title page, you're looking at the title page on the right-hand side and the frontispiece illustration on the left-hand side. This has a frontispiece showing a number of different coins that one might encounter in business and circulation in America, and among those coins is the very first depiction of a U.S. federal coin. So it's a 1795 Eagle, $10 gold piece. And so for that reason, the very first illustration of a U.S. coin, it's, just hugely important for coin people.
What do you know about the publisher and the extent to which this book was published? How rare is it that an example would survive to this day?
I don't know much about Chauncey Lee, who is the author, the compiler. I have no reason to think that he had any interest in coins beyond simply their use in commerce. This is one of those books that is considered to be of numismatic relevance, even though the book itself is not really numismatic per se. It's not talking about coins from a collector point of view. It's talking about coins as something that tradespeople and merchants have to deal with, purely coming from a commercial perspective. And that's what you're going to find at this period. The first works published on coins or metals from the collector's perspective in this country, were not published until a bit later. But it's the combination. You got this sort of 1-2 punch of, you got the first dollar sign and then the first depiction of a U.S. coin that makes this of, interest to coin people.
You have an estimated value on this piece at $1,400. Do you know offhand what previous examples of this book in various conditions have brought?
Yes, I've sold a few. You had asked about rarity, and I didn't really get to that yet. This is a book that I would say is scarce, but not necessarily. It's not a tremendous landmark rarity. It was obviously originally printed in numbers such that, a fair number have survived to this day. But it's in a lot of demand because it's not only of interest to coin people, it's of interest to book people, it's of interest to anybody interested in the history of money, and that sort of thing. So I've probably sold 5 or 6 copies over the years. I've sold them as high as maybe close to $3,000 or so for a very nicely preserved copy, that a couple people were fighting over in an auction. To, probably a little under 1,000 for copies that were pretty beat up. This copy is really pretty nice. It is in an original binding, but it's been rebacked, to use a book phrase. Rebacked means that the covers, the boards, are original, but at some point one or both of those boards came loose, and so the spine was recreated. So the spine is totally new, but it's using the original boards. That works well for this title because that way it allows you to use as much of the original materials as possible while still at the same time having a final product that is, readable. It's not going to fall apart. It's not in pieces. So it's an attractive copy.
Great. Well, if collectors want to take a shot at this, then go to your website at numismatic.com and register to bid in the auction. The auction takes place on July 15th, which is a Saturday. If you want to execute a mail or any other type of bid, you'll need to get those bids in by midnight on Friday, July 14th.
That's correct.
Well, thank you, David, for calling in and sharing more details about this lot. Good luck.
I appreciate it, Charles. Take care.